What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Goa trance, back with some more acid Goa. And indeed, we're going to go back to the excellent Gamma Draconis release from 2020 on Sun Trip Records, who have been releasing Goa trance both old and new in recent years on vinyl. So shout out to them, shout out to this amazing gatefold release. I mentioned it when I reacted to Raw's Icon, which I did like a few days ago, which was a reaction. I reacted to that tune on my old channel, but you know, as I keep mentioning, my old videos got compressed when I had to re-download them from YouTube before moving to this new channel, and even beyond that, I felt like that reaction, I was very talkative. The reaction was like 27 minutes long, and the tune is long. That tune is like almost 12 minutes long. But yeah, I redid the reaction. It was a little shorter, a little more concise. But yeah, as I was saying in that reaction, this whole release was mastered by Tim Schultz. If you didn't know, Tim Schultz is an old school Goa and like acid Goa and acid trance figure from back in the 90s. He used to make tunes under names like Brain Accent, Talking Souls, Mama Indica. I've got records under all those names. I know I reacted to Orange Acid at least, which is a tune he did under the name Brain Accent on my old channel. I don't think I put it up on this new one, and I think that tune is worth redoing because, again, my new videos will have, like, you know, the best sound that I can do for an MP4, which is 256 kps. But my old videos that I had to re-download from my original channel, YouTube compressed them to 128 kps, which is, you know, a notable downgrade. So again, I think that tune is worth redoing, so eventually I'll redo a reaction to some of Tim Schultz's masterpieces, but again, I think it's notable that he was in the studio and did all the mastering work for this release. But we're going to listen to a tune by one of the most famous, if not the most famous, psychedelic trance and Goa trance act, especially if you go back to sort of their original like heyday and golden period in the 90s. Admittedly, Astral Projection, in the early days, it was like a trio, and then one of the guys left, and another guy came in, like Guy Sabag, and then eventually a couple more of the people like left, and so it was just in the end, and has been a duo for now, you know, something like 20 years. I think certainly by the late 90s, I think it had settled into a duo, so I think it's actually been longer than 20 years. But Avi Nassim and Lore Perlmutter are the two that, you know, became the longtime duo of Astral Projection. So they're old school releases in the 90s. You know, you look at my Shnootz in the Breeze episode where I go through my Goa trance vinyl collection, you'll see I have like all of their old albums, many of their old singles like Mahadeva and Power Gen and so on. Both of those are on Smart Records, which is a Danish label that released a lot of their early material. Nevertheless, we're going to listen to a tune they did for this 2020 release, so this is the duo making tunes in the modern era. It's called Dominion, produced at their Astral Projection studio in Israel, but honestly, this feels like it could be one of their classics. They really were able to capture that sort of old 90s Goa magic. So, you know, this is a release by a pair of old school legends who still got it, so to speak. And this whole, you know, this whole album, I mentioned before, it's like Shakta and Euphoria and a lot of these, you know, MFG, these acts and artists who have been around for a long time. And so I love like what this release represents, that a lot of these people can still get to that place and still make stuff that is in the sort of spirit and sonic vein of the classic 90s Goa. So here we go. This is Astral Projection's Dominion. Now, I don't know this for certain. The tune has a couple different samples. I think one of them is from that Thor movie in the first one in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because it sounds like Anthony Hopkins saying like, "Oh, you're not a king yet, you're not gods," which, you know, they come from different places, I think, but I think that's lines that Anthony Hopkins says as Odin in those movies. So if someone knows that the sample comes from a different place, do let me know, but I think that's right. Either way, here we go. This is Astral Projection Dominion from 2020 on the Sun Trip release Gamma Draconis. already sounds like a tune that could be on Another World or Dancing Galaxy. Or maybe Amen, which is another great album. I feel like it gets talked about less. It was the last one they did that had a vinyl release, last album. I guess what I'm saying is this is Astral Projection, like vintage, even though it's recent. Got this. And one thing I will say, as we kick into our secondary intro, the bass line really starts to bubble, electrically sizzle. But I will say, these records are quiet compared to some other records. You know, that's not meant to be a shot at, you know, the mastering, or, you know, I'm a big fan of Tim Schultz. But yeah, like I said, these records are just quieter. I have to play the gain higher to get it to the sort of, you know, just under the red line than I do most other records. And I do apologize because I forgot that at the beginning. Okay, those little squiggles, those acidy squiggles. Like electricity coursing through the track. And all the while this kind of big, like sweeping this melody just guiding us along. All the while the electricity and energy is like keying up. Now this like melodic haze like dropping over the tune. One thing to deliver our dominion, we don't own the world. Again, maybe it's not from the Thor movie, but like, it does sound like Hopkins, and ultimately, yeah, like I said, if it's not from that, I have no clue what it's from, but I would love to hear if someone knows. Until we're about to lead into a breakdown, it just feels like it. Oh. Right after that measure transition. Higher. Again, you can just feel like the tension.
We're not kings yet. Not gods.
just, again, vintage Astral Projection right there. They find a way to like keep it twisted, keep it electric and acidy and bubbly and very Goa, like bendy. But they find a way to inject like epic emotional melodies into their Goa trance, going back then up into the present. Oh, that deep bass. Melodic haze falling again. And all the while the electric snarling and gurgling and bubbling. Still got it. That bass below everything. It's so dense, there's so much going on, it's like hard to like start to pick it apart. There's like this sort of like choppy rhythm to some of the melody and the synths. Oh. I don't remember if we had like maybe one more reformulation, but no, we're pretty close to the end. This is stripping down as the proper outro. Don't own the world, you're not kings yet, you're not gods. I've lost confidence that that's from Thor, even though I do think it sounds like Anthony Hopkins. But whatever it is, I don't know the source. So please, someone let me know if you're aware of the source of that sample. Nevertheless, I really do enjoy it. As I said, I think it captures the sort of magic, the sort of essence of the original vintage 90s Astral Projection productions, both from their albums and some of their singles and so on. Yeah, like I said, Goa trance is a type of electronic music that went digital before a lot of others, and for the most part, the scene has not come back to vinyl. There have been occasional and some rare releases. There was one, was it also on Sun Trip? In 2017, there was a release that came out. It was Astral Projection Another World, and they did a 2017 remix of their own tune. And then they remixed a tune by Filteria, I want to say, and then I think Filteria did a remix of a different Astral Projection tune. I'm trying to remember what label that was on. If it wasn't Sun Trip, I apologize to the other label that I'm forgetting, but either way, there have been occasional little bits and bobs here that have come out on vinyl, but generally, most new Goa trance and psytrance that comes out, it's digital only, it's on CD, or it's, released as MP3s and so on. So, there's a period between, when was Amen? I want to say Amen was like 06 or something. And again, that was the last studio album that Astral Projection put out where it had a vinyl release. So between then and 2017, there's a good decade where I wasn't really following them. So I don't know if they had not made many productions during those years and it was just an occasional thing, or if they did continue to put out releases and they were just digital only. So yeah, if someone, you know, followed them a little more closely during that decade, is familiar with what they were doing, you know, between the Amen album and then between the 2017 like remix they did of Another World, which is when I sort of like, oh man, they're still making tracks, like awesome, oh, and it still sounds like the old style. So when I saw that they had a tune on this Gamma Draconis album, I was once again very excited. So yeah, shout out to Astral Projection, shout out to Tim Schultz, shout out to Suntrip Records. So fond of this, and as I mentioned, very soon, maybe not immediately, but very soon, I am going to get to open this and react to a tune. This album from Raw was originally from 2008, but it wasn't on vinyl then, and Suntrip, as I mentioned, has been putting Goa vinyl out recently, including new stuff like Gamma Draconis, but also going back and to some of their older releases and saying, you know what, this is good enough to put on vinyl, and I'm here for it. I will buy it if you keep doing that, Suntrip. So yeah, and I did buy this directly from the label, so yeah, shout out to Suntrip. But yeah, we'll get to that next time, so let me know what you think. Other than that, thank you for listening and watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next time. Peace.